G'day and welcome to Queensland Farmer. Well, as you just saw, I picked quite a number of pumpkins. I think there were 15 in total. That's only for today. There's some other numbers that we've picked previously. I'll need to go back on previous videos and have a look to see how many there were. Today's going to be a bit of a garden update. It's been really cold here in southeast Queensland, and despite that, everything's growing beautifully. We've had just enough rain, just enough heat, and you can see by how much these gardens here with pumpkins are growing really well. And of course you'll get to see around the rest of the garden and see how things have developed. This is definitely the way to reduce your cost of living. We're able to live off these, live off the sweet potatoes and the tomatoes and silver beet and other products over there. So we'll go and have a look at that now. So of course these pineapples are looking good. They don't quite have fruit on them yet, but they're growing well and they're certainly healthy. Now, I'm not much of an expert on these, to be honest, but I know that you don't give them a lot of water. So whatever we're doing, it seems to be working because they're growing lovely. So this is turmeric. It's obviously died off for the winter. We'll go through now and we'll cut all of this off and all that will go into the compost heap. But importantly, this is the turmeric in here. So if you just dig around in here, you can see it's sort of appearing. So obviously you can cook with this, or you can use it for remedial medicine. And that yellow colour there is exactly the colour you want. Obviously these are quite big plants, so they'll take a bit of digging, but essentially you can break it off like this. Obviously clean it up, and this is what you get. And given we're well and truly over winter now, well, at least over halfway, you can see these plants actually already starting to grow back in a few places here, and here, and over here, and a few other places. But I'll go through and I'll cut all this off, tidy this up, and we'll be ready for another year. So the sweet potato is really kicking along now. You might remember from last year that the grasshoppers had come in and really given it a hard time. So you can see there's a little bit of activity here. And we don't spray anything on anything in this garden at all. We put a bit of fertiliser down, blood and bone, that sort of thing, but we don't spray anything. So sometimes we lose a bit of produce to insects and animals and birds, but what we'd like to think is what we're eating is pretty good for us. And the cost to that, of course, is that we get grasshoppers. But because I think it's because it's been cold this year that we really haven't had the numbers of grasshoppers that we had last year. So these things aren't impacted so much. Anyway, it's looking good. Bit of a weed growing here, which I'll just rip out and leave on the ground. Okay, so we'll just head over. The tomatoes are still producing. Now, most of these tomatoes are volunteer tomatoes. These are ones that just popped up somewhere else and we relocated them to here. And you can see that there's still plenty here. We've been picking these like mad. We can't keep up with them. But we'll get some more today. So this is spinach, and Popeye would be happy. This is ready to harvest, and we'll certainly get into that shortly. It's looking pretty healthy. There's been very little watering on our behalf. The rain has just been well enough just to feed it well, and the sun has just been hot enough. We've kept it under these covers, and I'm sure that has meant that we haven't been frostbitten, because it has been really cool here compared to the last couple of years. So cauliflower and broccoli are in these two, and they're very leafy. And again, there's no attacks from insects. So I'm really putting it down to the colder weather this year. So that's looking nice, very, very nice. And check out the silver beet. This one obviously is ready to harvest right now. And the way we harvest these is we only cut off just above the ground level, and then they regrow. And the second cut of that, we can either eat ourselves or we can give it to cattle, and the cattle love it. So once we cut this back, obviously these other plants here that have been dominated by these huge leaves, they'll have a chance to grow. But just check the size of that leaf out. Isn't that terrific? Once again, there's been no insecticides used on any of the produce that's put in this garden. So in this garden bed, we've got gourmet mini cabbages. You can see that Yeah, it's nice and firm now, so that's getting close. And I was just looking through here just prior to kicking the camera off, and I was saying there was nothing eating anything, but clearly something's been in there, and there's probably something in there having a feed right now. So we might address that problem a little bit later on. Anyway, it's been a pretty good year for infestations of insects, so I'm happy about that. So just moving down, we've got more tomatoes. You can see the tomatoes are just going crazy. There is no effort at all in growing these, and given the cost of them, they seem to vary between sort of $4 a kilo and $12 a kilo, different times of the year, or sometimes even more expensive. It doesn't hurt to grow your own tomatoes, so get into that. So there's some leftover spinach still growing along here, so this is nice. These tomatoes are once again came up by themselves, as did a nice bit of healthy grass. What we haven't had a lot of luck with is these capsicums. Another one here, they just don't seem to grow, so look, you don't win every one, but mostly this garden doesn't really cost a lot of money to maintain, and it certainly has massive savings. So it's worth having a go. It really isn't that difficult to have these gardens in place. Once you get the soil right, and it is all about the soil, everything just grows. I mean, you do need to have the weather on your side in many ways, enough rain, enough heat, and not significant wind, but it isn't all that difficult. And this is certainly a way to reduce your cost of living. And even if you specialise in one plant, well, you can grow that and lots of it. We're fortunate in the subtropics in that lots of things grow, and it really does keep that cost of living low. So get out there and get into it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, please share it with some friends.